the more that I tried to be strong, I almost ended up to the point where I got burnt out on my own dreams. And I thought that that was the worst thing that could happen. And I was like, I have to find another way to do this. And so that's a huge part of why I talk about it from the business perspective now, because I almost gave up on my dreams because I thought that being strong was the only way to accomplish it. And that would have been uh that would have been a travesty. Like, whatever is the worst thing that could happen. My body was like, girl, we're literally constantly in fight or flight. My cortisol levels were high. It was affecting my blood pressure. And I was like, I'm not trying to die young because of y'all suckers. Listen, I'm trying to figure this out. And if that means that it's because I need to find more ways to make space to laugh, to um, make more ways to make time for me, then I need to figure out what those activities are. And I need to prioritize them just as much as I prioritize work.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alicia Renice, and I'm so happy that you are here. Today, as you can see, I have a guest, and we have been kikiing a little bit before. But yes, please, if you could guest, introduce yourself and let us know who you are. Yeah, let us know who you are, how you see yourself,
Yeah,
please.
yes, I would love that. Thank you for having me too. So I am Rashidat. How I see myself, I am a little quirky, straight up nerd, aspiring tiny house owner that is a little bit defiant and I'm gonna say a good time. That's how I define myself. Is yeah, I have lived life doing things that I had to do for a long time. And then I decided that I wanted to live life in a way where I do some things I want to do. And so that's what I do now. I make space for that.
Oh, I love that. I make space. I make space for the things I want to do, not the things that I felt like I had to do. Oh,
Hmm.
okay. Before we get into that, because that's already okay. Yes, it's exciting. I really want to talk about your name for a second. You had a video recently where you talked about how like you're now owning your name. Like you're now like, no, this is my name. Can you tell us like a brief story about that and like how you went from, I guess, yeah, I just want to hear the story behind that. I'm not going to put any words in your mouth, but please, I would love to hear it.
Yes. So I am half and half, which is funny because you look at me and you're like, girl, you black. What you talking about? You ain't half and half for nothing. Right? That's what you see immediately. But I am half and half. I'm half American and I'm half Nigerian. And Nigerian meaning that my dad is born and raised in Nigeria. He lives in Nigeria now. My mother was born and raised here in the States, and they came together and made me. And um none of my siblings on my mom's side are African, and none of my siblings on my dad's side are American. So I'm this interesting mix in the middle that's like two different cultures coming together. And so that video was me talking about how I grew up in my American culture where trying to say my name was very hard, and it was I'm gonna say dumbed down. I hate saying that word. I don't feel like that's right because my American culture is so much a part of me as my Nigerian culture is, but they weren't coexisting. It was like for the longest time I was the American, so I was Rashida. And then more and more people, I got in Pittsburgh, there weren't any other Nigerians. There really weren't any other cultures. It was just Black people. So I really didn't have anyone who made space. Again, I guess I'm going to say this pretty often, making space for me to explore that Nigerian side or even understand what that meant. But as I've gotten older, as I've gone into college, as I've taken different jobs and I've met other Nigerians, I can't fake a Nigerian accent, but a Nigerian will come up to me and say, "That's not how you say your name." Don't say it like that. They will tell me in a quick second, child, that's not right. And so I was like, I would have had, so then I started living with, I have a housemate that is Nigerian as well. And from the moment I told her my name, I think I told her Rashida. And then I think I caveated it in saying, but it's truly Rashidat. And she has never called me Rashida a day in her life. She don't even remember that. And so being around her and living my life with her, she very much was like, it wasn't even an option. It was natural for her. Let me say it that way. It was natural for her to call me Rashidat, which is what my name has been the whole time. And so I think of it as like in this same, we're going to get into it later, but this whole becoming or opening, or I like to think of it as like a blossom. We all Black women are a blossom, and we've had that little white mesh paper around the blossom that's kept us from opening up, and we're learning how to take that paper off and allow us to blossom and be in saying my name as it's actually spelled and as it was created to be has been part of it. Not to mention, I have 5 middle names and a last name and a nickname. Listen, I got so many names you don't want to try to keep up. But so opening all of those things to be a part of it, that's what it's been for me.
Hmm. I love that imagery of the mesh on the flower. That's something that we can all like. You take it off and then it like unfolds, right? Where I feel like in American culture causes us to have to shrink and stuff
Mhm.
ourselves, right? And to make ourselves palatable, not to make our lives better or easier, but other people's lives. And so
Mhm.
like when you told that story, I was watching like, wow, like it broke my heart, number one, because that is a lot of people's experience here. I can only let me be easy to digest for other people, even though it's like it's choking me up, right? And a
Mhm.
name is so sacred, Rashidat, right? Like
Yeah.
that's sacred, right? And I'm sure it has meat. Like, do you know the meaning of your name, or
I wish I did.
it's
Again, one of those
okay.
parts I don't remember.
It's fine. No, no, no. But even if you don't know, like that's a name that was given to you by your parents. Like it's sacred. It
Mhm.
holds weight. You feel me? And even if you don't know the meaning of it, like the meaning is known. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Yeah.
meaning is still known.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I love that you. I love hearing about that because it's like I love hearing Black women unapologetically taking up space. Like no, like this is my name actually, and I'm no
Mhm.
longer trying to be for you, but I'm also trying to be for myself first. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that was beautiful. I also want to hear about your tiny home. So you're in the process of this is just like this is fun. I'm interested, but you're in the process of you said that you're on the way to becoming a tiny home owner. So like, can you tell me more about that and how you even got on that journey, that path? That's dope.
Yes. Okay. Yes, for sure. Listen, and I love talking about tiny homes. Okay. So funny enough, and here's something else that I think is beautiful about the journey of becoming ourselves. I think sometimes our closest people around us can see what we're becoming even before we can see what we're becoming. And so one of my best friends was like, "Hey, there's this tiny house movement thing. I feel like that's your vibe." And I was like, okay, so we started watching tiny house shows. Now, her daughter, oldest daughter, is 9 years old. So we must have talked about this. She hadn't had Jackson yet. So it had to have been 10, 11 years ago that this has been a dream. I'm actually going to do a separate video about like those dreams that take a long time to happen because I think we should talk about that more. But yeah, so this has been a long-standing dream. So I started watching the shows, and the whole idea of minimalism, being free, this ability to really let your wings spread, and I think less about the tiny home and more about us not feeling like we have to be boxed into any traditional mindset, any traditional living style, any traditional anything. What do you get excited about and how can you create it? And I think that's a bit of stepping back and getting to know yourself, which I was saying, sometimes your friends could see some of that beauty in you. And so she could see some of those things that manifested out of me. And she was like, I think this is your vibe. And so I started watching tiny house shows and I've wanted it and I've wanted it and I've wanted it. And for the longest time, tiny houses are a gray area as far as like being legal and how do you do it. But as I've become more of myself and listen, I don't care if it's legal or not. I don't care if it's in the gray. I know that this is something that I can do. I know that it's a manifestation of me. I know that I don't want no big house that I got to be vacuuming all day long. I want something small that has intention behind it that I get to put my stamp of approval on. I want a place that I don't have to pack and unpack anymore, but I could still take my house and pick it up and move. Like that was what I wanted, and the tiny house felt like the best way to be able to do it. So over the pandemic, I was like, okay, I think like this is finally coming to this place. But one of the things about doing a tiny house, it's easier when you know where you're going to park it or where you're going to start at, because you need like that transition time to figure it out. And I couldn't figure out where I was going to do it. And I love Jesus. He's so good. I was like, I don't know what to do. And he very politely dropped a breadcrumb in front of me and said, that the same best friend is moving to Charlotte, and they bought a property that has 12 acres of land. Now, their back part doesn't have a lot of room, but there's a nice, cute little spot right in the front, the perfect size for my tiny house. And those are my favorite people in the world. Every time I come and go, these are people that feel like home to me. And so I want to be my other version of this was like living in a cul-de-sac where I was in walking distance of my favorite people. This is my cul-de-sac. I'm making my own cul-de-sac, but now my tiny house is on wheels, and when I'm ready to exit the country, I could take my tiny house with me to Curacao or wherever I decide to go. So, yeah, that I just wanted something that um, was movable, that I'm also very creative. I can't sing like you. I like to sing, but I can't sing. I'm more of a shower singer. But it's something that was this expression of creativity that was like that felt like home to me. And now I get to put it where my favorite people are. Let me tell you though, trying to have a big dream and a specific dream like that when you're dating or trying to bring other people into that can be a challenge. But hey, that's what it is. That's what I want. It's my crazy little one of the other crazy little weird things about me.
Yes, but I love it. I love it. And I love you you hit so many points. I was trying to write them down, but you were talking about, well, one, let's go back like to the dating thing. I think there are a lot of us who may have forfeited dreams or put down a dream because
Mm,
it's not convenient either for like, oh, companionship or whatever it is. But I really do believe that like when we do live our lives, like our companions, whether they be romantic or platonic, they'll show up. Like when you're supposed to be
mhm,
where you're supposed to be, they'll show up, right? And
mhm,
so what you just offered is so freeing because like, yeah, there's some people who are holding back, I'm sure, who are holding back and like, well, I want to wait until I can. No, live your life,
mhm,
and let your life unfold naturally and easily, right? I think that I love that you're talking about because I love dreams. I love dreams. I love creativity, and I think that a lot of people get discouraged when their dream doesn't manifest immediately. And I love that you're
mhm,
saying no. The dream can take as long as it needs to take. It doesn't mean that it's a failure. It's just different,
mhm,
and you're open to like the different possibilities. So I too watch a lot of tiny home, or like Earth homes, like those kind of things. Like I really am enamored with it because I'm able to see, oh wow, there's so many different avenues that I can take to reach this dream. So like we did tiny living for a little bit in an RV, in a car. And so, even though it might not be picturesque or picture perfect, in the way that people understand it, you can do it your way and it still is nice. Because when you said that those people are home for you, like that just made me melt. It's so beautiful that even with your tiny home, you're still at home. You know what I mean? Like you're still at home with the people. It's not just the room, the shelter. It's really about like where you feel good. You know what I mean?
because here's the other thing about that too. I have lived all around the country. So growing up, I lived in one place for the first 17 years of my life, but I traveled. So my mom had already instilled traveling. But then I started moving around. Now I've lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Rome, Charlotte, North Carolina, Columbus, Ohio, Los Angeles, three different places inside of Los Angeles, California. So Long Beach, Koreatown, and downtown LA. I've lived in Atlanta, Georgia. I've lived in Gainesville, Georgia. I've lived in Manchester, New Hampshire. I've lived in Mijas, Spain. I've lived. I'm telling you this list to say I've lived in a lot of different places. I know it was to make a point. I've lived in a lot of different places, and it's been less about living in the different places and more about understanding what are the things that helped me feel like I was home. And it was partially the place. There's things like I love to be in a place that's walkable. I love to be in warm temperatures. I love some of these physical things, but none of them completely felt like home until I had the relationships that made or had accessibility to the relationships that made it home as well. So while I'm very passionate about moving abroad, I know that for me, and what makes me feel at home and what makes me feel connected to myself, to God, to all of these different parts of me is that I have to be in a place where I can fully be a part of the relationships that are most important to me. And the tiny house was a way that helped me do that. I mean, the other way is that, I mean, I'm still going to be bopping around because when I'm in a place too long, I'm like, oh, I got to go do. It's like literally, it's like my wings need to spread. It's like I can feel it, but knowing that for myself is, how I've chosen this lifestyle where it's more about lifestyle freedom rather than planting myself in one place and exploring what that means. So I really love that you picked up on that part about home because I think sometimes we miss that in the conversation of what it means to create home because of so many external things that can hamper or affect that.
Yes. So you said something lifestyle freedom. That's not a phrase that I hear
Mhm.
often. Could you tell us more about that? What exactly that is, please?
Yes. So for me, when I think of lifestyle freedom, I think of back to when I was working in my corporate job. Um, I remember going in college. In college, every 3 months, you get a new semester. So something was always changing. You're always evolving. You're always trying something new. You're at home. You're at school. You're doing it. There was this bit of change that I didn't realize how much I loved until I got to my corporate job, and I said, "Wait, all I do is get up into this, go to this job every day. Like, who the hell signed me up for this? This is terrible." And I realized part of it was like some of the most simplest part I would say was like even if if my mother had something going on and my sister got married and my other friend had a baby, I had to like try to ration my days off to be able to make time to go physically spend with those people or sacrifice, oh well, I'll see the baby later so that I could go spend time with my mom right now. And I recognize that having to go into the office and not being able to work remote and this lifestyle where it was like I don't have to be tied to one place in order to make money, in order to make a living, in order to live my life was was something that I didn't know that the term was lifestyle freedom or even location freedom when I started looking for it, but I knew that I wanted the ability to be able to come and go and live and work from any and everywhere in the world without having to start over. Because remember, I've lived all over the world, but every time I had to start over. And I was tired of starting over with new friends, with new housing, with a new job. Every time. And not only that, if I had to find a new job, a specific job, a location specific job, that limited the places that I could go. And so my former career was in fashion. That means it was either New York or LA, or that left so much of the world out. And I wanted to be able to explore
Ooh, I love that so much. I'm just like listening, like now, yes, yes. I feel this because I really do think when I graduated, I felt trapped, right? Because it's like, oh, I have this
that.
degree. This is the only thing I can do. Like this is supposed to be the set, like the foundation for the trajectory of my entire life. And
Mm-hmm.
that made me feel awful, right? Like it's like I don't I too like variety. I too like, the choice to be able to do something different,
Mm-hmm.
not like, oh, you have to stay this path and stay in this way. And so I feel like a lot of people feel like, oh, well, this is it until 65, 70. I don't even know what the retire date is anymore, but 70 something years old. You know what I mean? And I love that people are showing people like you're showing people like, oh, this is a different way that we can live. And much like that, like this is a different way that we can live. I kind of want to segue into our topic, right? Talking
Mm-hmm.
about the strong black woman. Because if you didn't know, right, you're missing out because Rashidat hosts a live every Friday where she
Mm-hmm.
literally step by step helps other Black women like be like, yo, let's actually live a life that's ours. Let's actually make sure that we're having joyful experiences and restful experiences. But before we even get into that, I really want to ask your opinion, like what you think of the strong Black woman trope and what it really means to be a strong Black woman, in your opinion.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's one of those things that I don't think we don't grow up saying, I want to be a strong Black woman. I need to be endlessly strong, that no matter what happens, I'm the last woman standing. I don't think any of us grow up saying that. And yet that's how we've been taught to live, right? Like we are the ones that don't cry, just shake it off and keep going. Um, this needs to be done. You're a child and it shouldn't be your responsibility, but I'm gonna ask you to step in and do it because without you, it's not gonna get done. Or um, somebody else is in the family is not able to step into their responsibility, and so we're taught. I know I was taught. Listen, I learned how to read when I was 4. I was taking the bus by myself when I was 6. I was taking care of my niece in 2nd grade. I remember being reared as an extremely independent, um, overly responsible child. From the time I was very young, how could I not take that into the rest of my life? And so a lot of the things that I did just felt like the next progression of, oh, this is just what I'm supposed to do. Oh, nobody told me that I had to do better than my mother or my father or my grandparents in school. And yet I felt that pressure. Nobody told me that I had to go to college. Nobody told me that I had to make a certain level of salary. Nobody told me that I had to do this or that or this. And yet it feels like there's already this path of things that we need to do planned out for us. And so we just keep doing the next best thing. And I remember reading specifically Michelle Obama's book, and she said the exact same thing. And I was like, oh my God. So sweet. If the first lady of America can say that, it's not just one of us. We've all experienced this this internalized journey that was set out for us. And within that, it started with back in slave times when the mammies were the ones, listen, y'all know how to help when, like, come on. Is this not a new iteration of what that looks like? But I think it's also our opportunity to be intentional in seeing it and saying, mm, I'm not going to keep leaning into that. This is about time that I try something different. And I know that it's new and I know that I don't have the answer of exactly what it looks like to do it different. But listen, my defiance, if I'm going to be a defiant for y'all and I'm going to march for y'all, it's about time that I start marching and being defiant for me. So your girl's about to figure it out. And if y'all burn in the process, y'all better come on and figure out how to stand up because I've been strong for you. It's time for you to figure out how you should be strong for you, because I can't keep doing it. So,
Yes. I love what you said cuz it is very much like no one audibly said, "Alicia, you need to be strong," right?
mhm,
But like yes, when I was younger, even when you're going back to childhood, I had this whole conversation with my family over Thanksgiving and how like we were talking about how I was like seen as the golden child. And I
mhm,
told them they didn't understand how much pressure actually came along with that. The margin of error for a
mhm,
golden child is this thin, like a piece of paper, okay? It's paper thin. And so like not only do you have to be strong, but and I was also like a very sensitive child as a kid, so I cried all the time, but like people kept telling
mhm,
me that it was wrong. Like something's
mhm,
wrong with you if you keep crying. And so here I am trying to be strong and I'm like, "No, your body is telling you that it's lamenting." Like your
mhm,
body is like, "We're tired. We feel pain. We don't like
mhm,
this." And of course as a child, you don't really have a lot of, room to do what you do what you want to do. But I do think there is this like it's kind of insidious the way that strength kind of works with Black women because we're praised for it,
mhm,
right? Like we're like
mhm,
the strong Black woman is like the 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 godlike Black woman, and so like it's almost the only time we're really celebrated is like
mhm,
in death or when we're really strong. Like That's literally the only, and usually from being so strong leads us to early death, right? Like, but like there's not a lot of love or support given to Black women who are not seen as strong. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I mean, but even when you're strong, you're not really giving support. You're just giving a hand clap, and like it's like that meme that's like, "Oh, I'm drowning," and it's like, "Hey, I need help," and that person is like, "You got this." That's very much how it felt like when I was a kid.
Mhm.
And I had to tell
Mhm.
my mother and my aunt this. I'm like, I appreciate the love that you all gave me, and I appreciate that you all knew that I was responsible, but also I was a child. I should not have
Mhm.
had to been responsible. I should not have had to
Mhm.
been strong. I should also have been able to make more of a fuss without it being quieted, right? Because
Mhm.
when you're seen as a strong child or the golden one, so to speak, you're not allowed to lament. You're not allowed to say ouch. You know what I mean? Like because
Mhm.
you're the helpful one. And so like you're talking about that stream. It's again that like flow that like, oh, you're just thrown into the thing, go. Like go Black woman, go. Like this is your lot in life. And I love that we're getting to a point where a lot of people are like, absolutely not. Like I
Mhm.
see and I honor also the people before me who had to be strong. You know what I mean? In
Mhm.
ways that I don't have to be strong now, and I benefit from their strength. And also I don't have to continue that cycle of killing ourselves, right? To continue to uphold this image because low key a lot of it is about like looking good and not actually being good. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
like
Yes.
we Michelle Obama looked real good on that stage. Like Michelle Obama looked good every time I see her. You feel me? But hearing her lament about being human is very
Mhm.
new because she
Mhm.
had to have it all together. The room, obviously, she's a Black woman, so like the margin for error is very small for her. But also, like, no, this is who she's supposed to be. I'm supposed to be strong, even though you talk about me and my family and all this other stuff. I can't be human. I want to ask you, at what point were you like, no mas, like I'm over this, like I'm over being strong.
That's a really great question. I think I think it comes back to it was 2015, 2016. So go back a little bit before that. I knew that I wanted to pay off all my debt. Um I was struggling. I wanted a relationship. I guess I'll put it there were things that I knew I wanted. I wanted to get married. I wanted to be out of debt. I wanted to enjoy my life. I wanted to feel like I was successful. And yet it felt like the harder and the harder and harder I worked, the less any of those things happened. And it came to a bit of a boiling point. I was just about done paying off my debt. I was working my ass off at work, but I was also like, "Hey, I need help. You're giving me 5 million jobs to do, and I'm getting stuff done, but you're also not really paying me enough for that." And they were like, "Girl, oh well." Like, so what? Like, and it was really like as much as they said. It was literally like, so what? And they walked away. And I remember, and then like right after that, it was like snowball of things that just started like happening at work. And I was like, I paid off my last payment of my student loans. I actually have the picture. It was April 25th. I was like, wait a minute. Now that I don't have these student loans, I don't have no debt. Like I have bills, but I really didn't have really any bills. I don't need all of this money. I don't need to keep doing this. Like, oh, this is freedom. Like this is a new level of freedom that I hadn't had before. It was an opportunity to explore. And I didn't have an answer to this. Let me be clear. I didn't have the answer. All I knew was things felt different because now I knew I had the space. This space is so important. The space to explore and ask and find a new answer to a question that it felt like the answer was I could give a new answer. Whereas before it felt like the answer was told to me. Now I could define it for myself. And so I started saying to myself, if I didn't do this, what would I do? And I remember crying because I had absolutely no idea, which is funny because on the outside, to everybody else, Rashida, but you've done amazing things. You've lived all over the world. You have an amazing job. You've got a great car. You've already owned a house. Like you've lived, like what else could you want? And yet I still felt like I wanted more, but I had absolutely no idea what more meant or literally how I was going to get it. But this freedom of not having to worry about paying my bills or not having to worry about the debt hanging over my bills, my head. I could literally just the money that I needed, I could make enough money and then move on. It's a different level of need. Um, Now it gave me the space to start exploring what the answer to that question would be. And that's when I didn't take a sabbatical. I went and did international missions for a year. Let me tell you, I wish I would have taken a sabbatical. I didn't know about it then. Like whenever I talk about, um, Exodus Summit, I wish I would have known them at that part. It would have been a different experience. And yet the experience I had was still freeing for me because it was coming out of my day to day and having this, I like to call it an adventure with Jesus, where I was like, okay, Jesus, what we gonna do now? Because we ain't got to do that no more. Like we can actually do something else. And he's like, well, what about this? And I'm like, ooh, but what about that? And he's like, ooh, I like that too. And this is how Jesus and I talk. And so we had this like fun conversation where we're dreaming together. And I was like, now this is it. Like I like this. I don't even know where we're going. And at that point, I didn't need to know. All I knew was that I was starting to feel alive in a way that I hadn't felt alive in that doing the next best thing that I had gotten, that cycle that I had been caught in.
I love that. I love that for so many reasons. When you're saying, I think when we get to that place of like, what am I going to do? Right? It's almost like we're looking for like this big thing, like this big thing to drop in. This is our mission. This is our focus or whatever. When really it is like that, right? It is very much one
Mhm.
step at a time. I have like this image that I've been working through. It's like it feels like life is a puzzle, and you only
Mm.
get like one piece at a time, and sometimes you get like the corner piece and you get like the middle piece that don't, it's like, what am I supposed to do with this? You have no reference picture. It really is just like one piece at a time,
Mhm.
and that could be very scary and like frustrating because you want to have the reference picture, right? But
Yeah.
like the beautiful thing is that anything is possible. No, like
Mhm.
when you get to that point of like again, which is scary and exciting, like anything is possible. When you walk through life one step at a time, you're present for it, but then you're also like you're talking about making room, you're making space, like to not hold, so like it has to fit this cup, right? And
Mhm.
it's like, no, it's actually like a bag of pins, like we try our best to like we try our best to anticipate and guess, and it's like, but God be blowing our minds, you know what I mean? Like a lot of
Mhm.
stuff that we plan, there's so much more beyond that because we don't even know what's possible. You haven't even
Mhm.
gotten there yet to see what's possible. I do want to ask you, when you talked about your mission trip, did you enjoy it? Was it an experience that, okay? I'm trying to
Yes, that's a great question.
okay.
So here's the thing. I will say, it holds a very special place in my heart because it really did unbox my relationship with the Lord. It unboxed my ideas about the place that religion has in my life. It unboxed denominations. And I also got my first real taste of white American Christianity in a whole different way that I had ever experienced it before. So there's even a part of me with the colonization and like and again, like it had its place in my life, and would I go back and do it now? I would, but for a different reason. So I did it before because I knew I just wanted a deeper relationship with God, and that is most definitely what I got. And I that part I'm so grateful for. And I mean, I have amazing stories from that trip. I wrote blogs twice a week. Um, and yet that also brought up lots of trauma, and it added new trauma because in 9 of the 11 countries I experienced racism. So, um, and I was with a group of white American Christians who Bible toting people who could not support me in said situation, in racist situations as well. So I say that to say, you know how on Inside Out at the end you get to see how the little globe is yellow on one side and joy on one side and sadness on the other. It is a combination of both. I wouldn't take it out of my journey, and yet I would not tell another Black woman to do it either.
No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your honesty in that too. I have heard some people talk about missions trips and how they too have similar experiences. Number one, I'm sorry that you went through that, and I'm sorry that you weren't supported as you should have been. That is
Thank
heartbreaking
you.
and that is traumatizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Now, I do want to add a caveat though.
Please, please.
On the other end of that, there was a different experience that I did afterwards that was still very uh white and Christianity, but not necessarily the same connection. And that was a different experience. So, this is the other thing that I say about that. Sometimes we go through really traumatizing, sucky experiences that take us to a new level of healing that we probably might not have been able to get to without that really sucky part of the journey. So, that's the other part where I'm like, um, I think this is where the magic comes in with any adventure. If you try to make it happen the way you want to make it happen, sometimes you missed where God is trying to take you because you're trying to force it the way you think it should be. So I've just come to learn to be hands wide open. So that second experience, I wish I could have just skipped the first one and went straight to the second one. I don't think I would have heard about it or known about it. But starting the business, really learning how to receive love from God, not religion, but love, was a huge part of the second experience. And that was with white American Christians as well. Not all of them were American, some of them were British as well, but a different conversation that again was still at the end of the day, whether it was the mission trip or this thing, it was a different conversation about God. And that was partly what I was praying for. I was praying for this adventure where my relationship with him got deeper. And I don't, I mean, I will talk about God, but I'm not beating anybody with the Bible. Like that's not what I believe it's about. I believe that he's always been like, hey boo, I'm trying to hang out. Like he literally talks like us, but we've been told to put him in a box. And so we miss out on that. And those experiences helped me take him out of the box. I mean, they were shitty on their own perspective, but it helped me take him out of the box. And that's where our relationship, I think any relationship really grows when you got some turbulence. So they got to be a little bit of the villain in order for us to be able to connect in that. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Yes. Thank you. And I appreciate you sharing that too. I do.
Mhm.
Um, I do want to, I want to ask you when it comes to strength, right? Because
Mhm.
even when I think about some of the experiences that I've had in like white spaces that are Christian spaces, I think about like how I go in with my heart first, right? And then I realize like, oh, like there are people here who are here that, that want to like lord over people and control people and colonize places, right? Like a lot of, so I'm from the DMV area. So here they have like a lot of, what do they call them? Like planter churches or like church
Mhm.
plants. And,
Mhm.
and like I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good idea until like I go into it, I'm like, oh no, you're colonizing the area, like you're gentrifying the area. And so I think I feel bad because it's like a lot of people have good hearts and they have good intentions. That's what I'm looking for. They have good
Mhm.
intentions where they're not necessarily looking for this to be a power play, but to serve others. And I think for specifically a lot of black women, like we go into things with our heart first, while other people
Mhm.
might have different intentions. And that whether that be the church or the workplace, or even like family, right? Like you go into places with your heart first, looking to serve, and there are people there who don't necessarily have the same intentions as you. And I've witnessed
Mhm.
this at the job where you're working because it's the right thing to do. It's like, oh no, I feel good, but they're taking advantage of your caring. Like they're taking
Mhm.
advantage of your strength, advantage of your love for
Yeah.
people. And I wanted to ask you, like, who did you see in your life that modeled strength?
Mhm.
Whether that be the trope or whether that just be like, no, like this is what strength is to me. Like who modeled that for
Yeah.
you?
Oh, that's a good question. So I would say my mom is definitely now double-edged sword. Oh, this is a good question. I would say my mom is definitely the model of strength. My mom has um been through so many things. So I trying to dissect and understand how my life started and how some things happened. I actually shared this in a previous recording I did earlier today. I My mom had me when she was 39. Um, she was supposed to move back to Nigeria with my dad and ended up not moving. So she's 39, like close to the age where we stop having babies, okay? And she's got a surprise baby because my brother and sister are 15 and 19 years older. So she thought she wasn't having any more kids. And yet here I come. I cried all the time. I don't know why. And she's alone. And she tried to get help taking care of me. She took me to a daycare, a friend that was running a daycare, a friend of the family. And I cried so much, the lady got frustrated and she shook me and she almost killed me. Shaken baby syndrome. And so she didn't feel safe to take me to anybody else. So my mom quit her job for a long time and just stayed at home to take care of me. But I remember her being on the couch, just laying on the couch endlessly. And I didn't realize it until I was much older that my mom was depressed. And then when she finally was like, I don't have any savings, I got to do something else. Back then, you could go drive the cab and you can get away with like putting your baby in the front seat. So then she drove with me in the front seat because she did the best with whatever she had. She didn't wait for help. She didn't even bother to ask for help, really. Um, and yet she's still kicking and still surviving. And yet I say all of that, and she is the epitome of strong. And yes, but at this point, I wish for her that she didn't have to just survive. I wish that she could have thrived. And when I say thrived, I wish that she could have had the space to be soft. But now my mom is 80 years old and she's alone. And she gets bored now, especially since the pandemic. She's gotten used to not getting up and going like she used to. She had to stop running, ripping and running. And it's hard to create those connections. I mean, she ornery as hell, let me tell you. So, that strength, those are the things that she used to help her get through some hard situations. I mean, that is literally strength, but it was also very much strength when she didn't have any choice but to be. And I wish that I talk about this because I want us to have a choice, to not just be strong, but to let some of the other characteristics, some of the other attributes, emotions be a part of our life just as much as our strength.
Mm. Thank you. First of all, thank you for sharing that story. It's something I can relate to. And
Mhm,
it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and it's not fair.
mhm,
And one, I'm sorry that that happened to you too as a child. Like, yeah, I wouldn't want to let you out my sight either. You know what I mean? Like, if that happened, I would like, no, absolutely not. Because it's like it's not even at that point. It's not even like nobody can help me. It's like no one is trustworthy enough to be able to help me in the way that I
mhm,
need to be helped. Right? Like,
mhm,
and you mentioned something so important is that strength is not for long term, right? Like
mhm,
strength is for those experiences, those moments, but long term strength has like lifetime long repercussions. You know what I mean? Like the
mhm,
stress, the stress that it does
mhm,
to our mind, but also like our physical bodies. I too, I was raised by a single mother and or mother, when my father left, and he was also awful, and my mother was strong, and because of that strong, like she has autoimmune diseases, right? And like I see what it costs to be strong.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I love that you said like I wish black women like had a choice, right? Like because that fight or flight is for fight or flight. That stress is for
mhm,
that moment, not for the rest of your life. Like that's not we're not supposed to have to be strong for forever.
mhm,
And I don't know. I think about I was reading a book about Harriet Tubman. I'm reading about Harriet Tubman, her life, and they were talking about how in 1808, after like they stopped the transatlantic slave trade, right? The new way to get more slaves obviously was to impregnate other slaves and sell them
mhm,
down south, right? And I think
mhm,
about how black women specifically have been seen as like the source of labor and the source of
mhm,
strength. Like literally, we had no other opportunity to be anything other than strong. Cause like
mhm,
literally that was like our life, right? Like it's life
mhm,
and death. Like if I'm not strong, I die. If I'm not strong, they'll take my children, right? Or they might take my children and I still gotta be strong, even though I'm
mhm.
mourning. There's no time for me to be human. And I think about
Yeah.
like how a lot of black women, it's almost like our default is strength because it's almost like we're afraid of dying. It's like the fear of death,
Mhm,
which is a very real fear, right? I'm not saying it's made
mhm,
up. But it's
mhm.
also something passed down from generation to generation where
Yes.
I feel like again, my great grandmother was born 1912 and I knew
Mhm,
her. Like I was friends with her.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
her upbringing, her trauma was very much passed down to my grandmother, who she
Yes.
had at 15 or 16. Then my grandmother
Mhm.
had children at 15, and then my mother, and then me. And it's just like, we're all passed down. It's like, no, strength is not just, it's not just an attribute that I want to embody. It's something that means life and death for me. Um,
Mhm.
and so I want to ask you if you have any insight on this. Like, how do you think that we can use our the privilege, using air quotes, privilege that we have now as Black women, like living in this time, with this technology, how we can start to choose our own path, like toward away from. I don't want to say away from strength, because I don't mean it in a way that's disrespectful to the people who came before us. But how can we
Yeah.
start charting a new path so that we don't have to continue that cycle of, being super strong and independent and also suffering, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 'cause it's been coming hand in hand. So first, I love that you said you knew your great-grandmother, and she was born in 1912. My grandmother was born in 1928, and I knew that my grandmother was in our 90s, but when you hear the year that they are born, it blows your mind. You're like, "I can't believe that I have you here." And I think there's something so beautiful and honoring. Now, they're not as great at talking about their situations, but I do look for opportunities when I can say, "Well, what was that like? What do you wish it would be like now?" And less about making it happen, but more about just honoring their dreams, and how it was hard for them. And there's some part of it, even if we don't manifest their exact dream, there's still a part of it that's already manifesting right now and being able to honor it. So I think part of it is also like having those conversations with them and saying, like, "Grandma, I can't even imagine. Like, I can't imagine that you were a part of integration. I can't imagine that you were a part of being chased down by dogs. I can't imagine that you were sprayed by a hose. Like, I can't. I've seen it on TV, but I can't imagine that with you, and that I can actually reach out and touch you right now. That's a whole powerful thing in itself. And then how do you hold space for that and also make space for what you want your future to be? And this to me is where vision, like vision, I don't say it enough, but vision is like paying off the debt was like a part of it, but it started with getting a new vision, a new figuring out what I wanted from life. I think we all are like, "Oh, I know myself." But honestly, I didn't really know myself until I started asking myself these questions. And I didn't start asking myself these questions until I was in my 30s, mainly because the women before me didn't even know what questions to ask me to help me figure it out. So there's knowing their space, knowing where they're being, and honoring that they couldn't give you what they didn't have, what they didn't know how to foster in you, and yet knowing now what you know, being able to carry it forward. And instead of teaching our children how to persevere, teach them how to, I'm going to say, garden, like those blooms, how to add more seeds in that garden so that it can expand and bloom and grow, that we can have that. And I think a part of that is like, I, I I don't think we need Martin Luther King's dream anymore. I think we need to figure out how to figure out what our own dreams are, and that's why I'm so passionate about vision. So what do you want from your life 10 years from now? I'm quirky as hell. I want something different than you want. That's why my business is not like, I'm going to help you start a business. I'm going to help you do this, because I want to help you figure out what you want from your life. My life didn't feel fulfilled until I figured out what I wanted. And you're not going to want what I want. You might not want to live in a tiny house. You might not want to move to Curacao. You might not want to bop across from country to country. You might not want to be vegan. You might not want to do any of these things. And I don't want you to be. I want you to figure out what you want and start creating that life. And it might be simple. It's not about making it bigger and better. That's that hustle culture, toxic productivity, black excellence. I was about to curse. BS. I'll just say that. Okay. We don't want any of that. It's not about trying to aspire to that. It's about asking yourself in your own personal mindset, what does that dream look like? And if you need help figuring it out, that's when you start breaking it down. But it's like really asking yourself, wait, what if I didn't have to worry about how much money I had? If I didn't have to worry about where I lived, if everything was literally like I could just walk up to whatever and be like, this is mine, what would I want? And not because I got to keep up with somebody else's Joneses, I got to have the biggest house, I got to, it's not about, oh, that's a huge thing. Choosing things not based on what we think we have to prove about ourselves to other people. You got to take the proving self out first, which is why that's where I start with redefining who you are based on outside of your job title, outside of the things that you've been told you have to be, because otherwise your dreams will be developed based on that, again, BS. So we got to take that BS and we got to take those limits off and say, well, what do I want? And which is why I do have dreams about tiny houses. And I don't think I want to be a mom. I want to be a cheeky little grandma that's having, not even grandma, great aunt is what I'm going to be. That's what with my husband making out in places. You're like, what are they doing? Let me cover my eyes. That's the kind of old lady I want to be. Okay.
Oh,
So
I love that. I love that because like even when we're talking like Black Girl Creative, when we're like, so I hold this group called The Garden, and we talk about like dreams and creativity. A lot of people, including myself, I'm not separate from this. A lot of us when we figure, oh, what do you want to do? Immediately go to money, right? Immediately go, oh, let me start a business or let me go back to school. And we don't even, and some of it might be from passion, but I would wager a lot of us are doing it because we feel like it's the next thing to do, the next the black excellence thing to do, right? Like oh, if I'm gonna start my life over, your dream could just be camping in the woods every day. That's fine. That like,
yep.
and it doesn't. It's not about being productive. It's not about being useful to anybody else. It's about you and your joy and your happiness. And I love that you're taking that approach because like a lot of us like even with my business, I felt so unbusinessy. Can we talk about that for a second? Like I felt so like unbusinessy because I'm not teaching people how to make more money. I'm not teaching like I'm honestly in real life, I'm not interested in any of that. I'm not. And I don't know. And it makes me feel like, oh, you're not a good business person because like I know a lot of people's goal is to make more money, right? But what I want more than that is for people to be creative and to be free and to follow their
Yeah.
dreams, their creative dreams, whatever that is. And like to help people do it because it can be done. And
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't until I gave myself permission to be like, Alicia, you don't even want to be a boss babe. You don't want to, you're not, that's not even who you are, honey. Like, and it's okay. And I love, like,
Mm-hmm.
even you sharing that with me just gave me so much radical permission to just be like, you know what? You're right. Like, I kept trying to find a way to approach my business to make it legit. I don't know if that's like the word I want to use, but like businessy. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, can you make your life's work for right now, whatever the season I am in my life, about black women and creativity and music and all the things? Yes, you absolutely
Mm-hmm.
can. Maybe it hasn't been modeled yet in ways that you like or seen, but like you gotta give yourself that room, that space, right? To be able to figure out who you are, why you want to do the thing, and then do it. Make sure that hopefully you make sure that you're doing it that doesn't have anything to do with then I will be enough. Then somebody
Mm-hmm.
will see me. Then I'll be
Mm-hmm.
legitimate. You feel me? Um
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so all of that that's for me. So I appreciate that because
Oh,
that gives me permission, makes me happy.
wait, even just saying that opens up more for me. So I love it. I
Yes,
love it
yes.
because even when you said that, I will say that I feel like, especially as someone, I aspire to be a life coach. You know how many times I've been told, don't be a life coach, be a relationship coach. Don't be a business coach. Be because those are other things that I can do, and I do like talking about. But there's something different about being this lifestyle design life coach, where it's like, no, but all of those things are a part of life. And if I just figured out what I wanted from life, then the rest of those things would fall in place. But we've been told to make those other things a priority. But when we actually just take those boxes off, those damn boxes again, so much more opens up. There was something else that you said that was so beautiful. Crap. I want to come. But that permission, it's back to
Yeah,
that
take your
permission
time.
about
Yeah.
like, okay, because I was like, it was that permission where you were saying, I don't want to have to be businessy.
Oh yeah, I was saying I really don't care about the
Mhm.
businessy things. It's just like the creative stuff, the like that's what I care about. And so
Yes,
yeah.
right. Okay. So yes, I'm the same in that how can I best describe it? I think a real business only happens well when we figure out how we make money a manifestation of us. So if you don't know how to manifest you really well, you're probably not gonna make that much money off of it. That's my 2 cents. Now, okay, there are some people who might figure out but something else, but in a lot of ways it still is a part of their manifesting of their strategy or something that is within them. You know what I mean? But when we figure out like literally I'm building my business around the 3 things that I want to be known for. I want to be known for being encouraging, for being an adventurer, and being wise. And when I say wise, I'm not meaning like I got everything figured out. It's more like I'm really good at falling flat on my face and getting back up again because I done that a lot. And sharing on how to not stay down there. That's what I want to be known for, and how can I manifest a business into that? And I think that's part of what makes creating a business hard, but yet is that not the part that also makes it fulfilling too? So I just get really excited when you say that because I'm like, yes, we're on the same page. I'm like, we haven't even met, and I'm like, I feel like our hearts are like meshing.
I completely agree. That's why when you said that, I'm like, oh my God, yes. Like, first of all, so many things you just said. I'm like, wisdom, right? A lot of people want wisdom, but don't want what it takes to be wise. And like you said, it takes a lot of falling on your face. A lot of the wisdom that I have is because I've made mistakes. There's like either people have told me things, but it's something different when you have to embody a lesson to be able to teach it. Like it's a different connection. And a lot of people are
Yes.
afraid of falling on their faces. But it's like in order to get to that wisdom, sometimes it happens. But falling on your face is not a failure. It's not the end of the world. It's not it might be embarrassing because we're human and we get embarrassed when we fail. But a lot of that pressure that we feel is from other people. In real life, we're fine. We're okay. Like if you're still alive, you're breathing, you can get up and try again. And that's when you're able to apply those lessons that you learned. But some lessons we can't avoid playing safe in our bubble and or trying to follow the path. Something else you said, like, so I've tried a lot of businesses because I'm multi-passionate. When you said I can do that, I've done that. Like, oh, I have these skills. I can do X, Y, and Z. I can be a photographer, and I was. I can be whatever, and I was. But it didn't last. It didn't sustain, right? Because I want to talk about strength and endurance because I think about like strength in the positive, right? Like changing the lens a little bit to like the positive. You need joy. You need passion. You need friends, community, these things to make you strong and to endure also the hard things in our lives that maybe we're not strong enough to deal with and fight. And so I think that when we are doing things that actually makes our soul sing, that makes our souls happy, yes, the hard times are still going to come. You feel me? Like it's still going to be difficult,
Right.
but you're stronger because you've been doing things that are in alignment with your soul. You're doing things that are joy makes you strong. Like I think about, so in the song that I sang, it was like there's a line in there that says that I shouldn't have to be strong. You say I'm strong, but I'm surviving, right? A lot of the when you talk about going from surviving to thriving, that takes joy, that takes bravery, that takes you making decisions, right? To get
Yeah.
off of that thing, like, and so in order for you to be strong, like for me, I know for me, but I feel like it's for most people, you need strength. I think about the scripture, the joy of the Lord is your strength, right? Like literally, when you don't have joy, you're not strong. You don't like, what am I doing this for? You're hopeless. You feel like, what is all this for? But when you are doing something, and even though it's hard, I'm on this path as an independent artist, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. But I'm joyful. Like, I'm joyful. And so that feels better to me to fall on my face doing something that actually feeds
Yeah.
me than doing something that, like climbing a ladder to nowhere, to somewhere I don't want to go and falling down some ladders when I don't even like it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
to that point, I completely agree. Is there something you want to add?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, yes. Because I love that so much. Again, I'm like feeling all the vibes. So it's the same thing I felt with like my corporate career. I was in fashion design. Everybody, it was like, oh, but that's a cool job, and you get to make clothes every day, and you get to do this, and I'm like, all right. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I went to school for it, but I'm a highly paid paper pusher. Like, let's be real. I'm just pushing paper, just a different kind of paper to different people than the people that you're used to. Like, I'm not out sewing or making couture dresses or being at fashion shows. They come in, we clock in, we do the work, and then we go home just like everybody else. Like, we sit and spin just like we sit on the toilet just like everybody else. Okay, like that was it. But the difference for me, so then I did all of those trips, and then I said, okay, Lord, now here's Jesus. Jesus is funny. Let me tell you. At 17, he clearly said, you're going to be an entrepreneur. And I said, talking to you ain't talking to me because that's hard. I ain't trying to do that, Jesus. And he was like, okay. He kind of laughed it off. And he'll let you do what you want to do. That's the beauty of free will, right? But then after 10, 15 years of being in my career, and I was like, this is not fulfilling. I I can do this. I am good at this job. I was good at what I did. I could do it easily. I could do it in my sleep. And yet I hated it. And I was like, I want to do something that I feel alive. And like I said, I didn't know what it was going to be. And so I went through all of these trips and all of these things. And someone said to me, this is how beautiful he is. He dropped a breadcrumb. Random girl said, you should be a life coach. I never even heard of what being a life coach was at that point. Okay, didn't pay it that much attention, but you know how you just kind of store things in the back of your mind. So if you've had some of, I'm going to say this, if anybody has had any things, little breadcrumbs jumping, and it's been storing in the back of your mind, this is probably a sign to start pulling those things out, putting them on some post-its and put them on a wall and see what the Lord's been trying to tell you for a long time. Because if it's like me, you've been he been trying to tell you a little something and you missed it. So he dropped the life coach, and then I was like, okay, Lord, I don't want to go back to this business. I tried to go into a Christian organization, and let me tell you, that's like seeing the barnacles in the bottom of a boat. Like, listen, it's you don't want to work in a Christian organization either. That ain't no better. You think because they messed up too. They messed up too. Just you don't want to do that. So I was like, oh, this is not gonna work either. And then I said, he's so kind. He said, so are you ready? He put a big smile on his face and he said, are you ready to try to be an entrepreneur now? And I said, oh, I guess I am. That was 17 to 33. It took me, talk about falling on my face. And here's what's the most beautiful thing. The first time I did my first coaching session as an entrepreneur, I got off the phone and I said, my life. And he's like, I've been trying to tell you this.
I love that. But you know what? Even if you're talking about, you said from 17 to 33, you fell on your face. I disagree. That's not falling on, like, I think it's journeying, right? Like, it's journeying through your life. I'm starting to believe, like, there's no such thing as lost time. There's no such thing as, like,
Yeah.
wasted effort, right? Because even though you did that for that long, like, you're still getting something from it, even if it's just information that's not what you want to do. And that's worth its weight in gold. You feel me? Like, all that time you spent doing that, like, it's still like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. But also, like, I'm sure that you've gained practice and skills from doing that you can still apply in other areas of your life. But I love that. That could be the sign, right? Like, yes, this is the sign. If you're watching this is the sign, right? And also that pain that you feel, that like thing inside of you that's like, I don't like this, that's also the sign. You know what I mean? Like, that's the sign that this isn't it. You might not know exactly what the it is, but you
Yeah.
know this ain't it. And that's enough to get started, to get you starting exploring. And so I want to ask you real quick, like, a lot of people would be like, oh, well, I'm 33 years old. I've been doing this for this long. I got to continue X, Y, and Z. Like, how did you give yourself permission to be like, forget it, I'm going to pivot. Forget it. Like, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I honestly had to grapple with that for some time because also too, we've heard other people say, oh my gosh, another graduate that's gone to college and got all these student loans and now they're not using their degree anymore. So what? How I don't understand why we thought that at 17 we were supposed to know what we wanted to do for the rest of our life anyway. Who the hell decided that? That was the stupidest thing we ever thought was supposed to happen. I don't know who decided that. So grace, grace from that, okay? And then also grace, we change. Our dreams change. Our evolution happens. I would say every 7 to 10 years, it's going to change. Like it's not going to be the same thing. I think what you said the question was like, how did I give myself permission to do that? I have to take that back to this strong Black woman, to my mom. I was very, very lucky that my mom, if I said, I want to paint the sky red, my mom would help me figure out how the hell I was going to do that. It didn't make absolutely no sense. But my mom would be so supportive and be like, okay, we need to raise money for it too. Let me go sell 500 sweet potato pies. And she did. I mean, so I think that I've been blessed in that there's always been someone who, even if they couldn't see my dream, they didn't understand my dream, they might not have wanted my dream, but they still believed in me and wanted to help me get my dream for the sake of me having it, which is another reason why I love being, oh gosh, I just got goosebumps, which is another reason why I love being a coach, because I can get more excited about somebody else's dream than they get about their own damn dream. They'd be like, girl, how did you come up with that many ideas for it? Because listen, this is the when people talk about purpose, I don't think it's about purpose. I think it's about understanding what comes out of you when you're being your fullest self. And that's what comes out of me. When you tell me about some dreams, listen, everything, all of Jesus be like, come on, boo, let's do it. What we got? I'm into it. I'm ready. Like it's like revving. I was actually tired before we got on this call, but you can't tell right now, right? It's that whole manifestation of like that space to let you and your fullness of yourself come out. Like that's what I want to see every single person. Because okay, you talked about that puzzle piece. I think about it in two different ways. For one, let's talk about it in your dream. I used to think of it, you said a different puzzle pieces. I thought of it as like I have this masterpiece of a painting and I know it has pieces on it, but that dang painting is pixelated and I can't see what the picture is and I can't figure out. But here's the thing, everything in my being tells me that it's beautiful and it's colorful and it's vibrant and it has so many different, it's dynamic, but I can't see what it is yet. And I'm like, Jesus, can you dial up the clarity on the picture? Can you help me figure it out? And so he's every time that I go a little bit more, a little deeper into me, that picture gets clearer. That's how I relate to, when you were talking about that puzzle piece for ourselves. Now, here's the other part of the puzzle piece for me. When Alicia's puzzle piece gets to be bright and vibrant and all of the colors get to come out, and my piece of the puzzle gets to be vibrant and all comes out and they intertwine, and then yours, and then yours, and then yours, and then yours, and then yours. That's what I believe makes this world a better place. It's not these different purposes and that we all need to go out fighting for everybody else. All of that fighting ain't got us nothing but more fighting. Like, how do we just learn how to manifest or make space for each of us to manifest truly who we are? And then when all of those puzzle pieces are laid into place, that's when I believe like that's when we finally, the world becomes this better place that we all want it to be. So I got off on a tangent, but
No. First of all, I love tangents. So I'm like the queen of tangents. It's fine. It's completely fine. But I'm also energized because like same like that image that's the same image I use like when people are not showing up in their piece or in their square or whatever the picture is, we can feel you missing. Like there's a gap. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so even when you were talking earlier about like, yeah, we need this, like we need you, like you're needed. Like the reason why you're given the passion that you're given, I'm talking to you, like specifically, like we need you. And like, you're talking about all these other things that you could have done. Seeing you light up, seeing your passion and your joy like across your face, like, and seeing you get energized and worked up, like that enthusiasm is what is needed. Like, and you're enthusiastic because you're doing the thing that you know that you need to do right now. Like this is the thing. And so I love that you gave yourself permission to do the thing, like to in whatever iteration it is right now. And I say that only to say that I'm also giving myself permission to be like, it's okay to evolve. It's okay to change, right? Like, I think about when we talked about that puzzle piece earlier, I think at some age, I'll be able to like, oh, I'm a little taller, like almost like growing like a tree. I'm too close to it right now that I can't see the picture. But when I'm growing, I can actually look down, like, oh, it's like, it's coming into view. You know what I mean? And the exciting part is just taking the next step. It really is just like, That's all you need to
Mhm.
be concerned about right now, not what it's going to look like in the
Mhm.
future. Because
Mhm.
I've been taking like this course with Doctora Rosales Mesa, and so she's doing like anti-colonial work, and it was about rest specifically, but
Mm.
about our gifts.
Okay.
And one thing that she said that stuck out to me, and it hit me because she's like, our gifts are alive, right? Our gifts, like the medicine
Mhm.
is alive, right? And so just like people evolve, so does the way your medicine and your gift expressing itself evolves. You feel me? So like
Mhm.
there were certain things that I did before, even certain containers of like courses and like journeys that I put together, and another year would pass. I'm like, I think I need to do something different. But no, business will tell
Mhm.
you to be consistent and do the same thing over and over again, right?
Mhm.
And then I'm
Mhm.
like, but it feels like spirit has left, whatever that is, and I need to go somewhere else. And like we
Mhm.
have to give ourselves permission to do that, right? So I'm just saying, even if you do this for the rest of your life, that's wonderful. I'm glad, right? But
Mhm.
also it's
Mhm.
okay if this evolves and changes into something else,
Yeah.
because your enthusiasm, your medicine is what is actually like, it's what's doing the work versus like the container, the thing, you know? So anyway, but yes. But I love
I
that. Yeah,
love
go ahead,
that
please.
too, because that also means that we are evolving and changing. We're not going to stay the same. Even I had a friend, my first my first client, she did my program again last year, and she was like, I can't believe how much this has evolved. And because we're evolving, I've evolved, I've understood it different, I've learned it different, and now I can give it away in a different way than I could before. And now my circumstances around it, like I still talk to corporate professionals, but I didn't just come out of corporate yesterday. So now I'm starting to talk more about what does it look like to quit being the strong black woman as an entrepreneur as well, because it's really easy when it was somebody else's, it felt easy to push it back onto them. But when it's yours, when it's your baby, how do you make space for you to still have to be not buckled down and strong and like grinding yourself into making this thing happen and allowing it to ebb and flow and evolve in the way that you've talked about in your business? And so I talk about that too, and like opening space. And that part can be a little bit more comfortable because I don't have all of that figured out. It's still an evolution. As an entrepreneur, I've been doing this 5 years now, going on six in this coming June. I feel like I'm just now starting to get the hang of it. I feel like I'm just now starting to, but for anybody else, they're like, but girl, you've been doing it. And I'm like, girl, you ain't seen what been happening in the background. I mean, I tell you, I'm not trying to hide it from you, but like, like understand that there's more to it than just it's more to it than just being strong. There's the more that I tried to be strong, I almost ended up to the point where I got burnt out on my own dreams. And I thought that that was the worst thing that could happen. And I was like, I have to find another way to do this. And so that's a huge part of why I talk about it from the business perspective now, because I almost gave up on my dreams because I thought that being strong was the only way to accomplish it. And that would have been uh that would have been a travesty. Like whatever is the worst thing that could happen, like that's the word I'm looking for. I just don't have the word for that now. But yeah.
You're not alone in that. I literally was singing. Like this is like with singing, I had to take a break because I realized I was riding my gift like a slaver, like an enslaver.
Mm,
Like I was enslaving my gifts and making them, like beating them. You know what I mean? Like my gifts, like looking at I have to look at my gifts as literal, like if I get emotional, it's fine. I have to look at my gifts as like literal spiritual beings. Like
mhm,
this is something I've been given. I've been given these gifts to take care of them, not to
mhm,
exploit them. And so
yeah,
like I felt like, because I didn't do the when I came out of working, right, a 9 to 5, I didn't really do the work of I didn't even know that was work I had to do. I didn't
mhm,
unlearn the corporate thing. I didn't unlearn the hustle and grind, and so I went straight out the frying pan into the fire, like literally, like. And I became my own awful boss. I became my own enslaver. I became the worst thing that happened to my gifts. And so I had to take a break from singing because singing
mhm,
was not fun anymore. Singing, like
mhm,
I took the joy out of something that used to bring me so much joy.
yeah,
And when I got to that point, you talking devastate. I know exactly what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
When you have harmed your gift, and now it's like I'm rebuilding a relationship with it again. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm apologizing to it. I'm being kind. Oh, you don't feel like singing today? We don't have to sing. That's fine. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have to sing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what I mean? Like you're not consenting, just like how I don't want someone to force me to do something. I can't do that with my gift either. And so like
Mm-hmm.
even like now that I'm on sabbatical right now, like and even though I'm doing this brings me joy. So this is fine. But like I'm taking a break from singing in a way that would be some sort of exchange, right? A value, whether that be a like or like money or whatever it is. It's like, no, like my gifts are mine first. They're mine.
Mm-hmm.
They're mine to
Mm-hmm.
take care of. I sing to myself all the time. I sing in the
Yeah.
shower. I sing along with songs that I like. And it's not for anyone else's approval or money. And we all need a time where we can unplug from a system that is rewarding us for exploiting our gifts. Because if we
Yeah.
don't do that, then we're gonna, like you're saying, we're gonna continue to do that. We're gonna continue to harm not only our gifts but ourselves in turn. Because
Yeah.
if you have nothing, like if you have, I don't, and it sounds so dramatic, but for real, if you have nothing worth living for, then you're not going to
Mm-hmm.
want to live, right?
Right.
If you right, like so for me, when I didn't have my gift of singing and creating music, I felt like I wanted to die. It's no
Mm-hmm.
hyperbole. It's
Yeah.
just like it's so
Yeah.
real.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because on the flip side of that, so mine is here's I had to do it, but in a different way. Because like yours is an artist. I love to sing, but most times I sing in a way where that's the one time I like to go to church because the music is so loud. I mean, and I'll tell you, I got a loud voice, but except you just 10 people around me, nobody can hear me. But there's something so I can't imagine. Here, let me say it that way because I'm getting all choked up. I can't imagine not having the space to sing because there's something about that freedom in your body of letting your voice come out that happens. So I'm so glad that you took the chance and that you paused and you made it a space for you. And I have a similar thing for dancing. Like, remember, y'all know I talk about social dancing all the time. I love dancing and I could think about business ideas for it because I love business and I love strategy, but I will never, ever, ever monetize dancing because I need something that is just for me, that is just for the fun of it, that I might show videos of it because I love it, but I need something that's just literally something that just brings me joy because otherwise our culture will make everything about money and it really does suck the living fun out of it and it's not worth it. I'm so glad that you've taken the pause. Listen, I still listen to what you already got out, so I'm still grateful I already got those.
Thank you. I no to that point, it's like, girl, you have already released music. Like you don't have to keep, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to keep forcing yourself and you don't yes, I'll say force. You don't have to keep forcing yourself to keep making more things for other people. Like you're saying, I
Mm-hmm.
think there's it's beautiful to be supported for your art. It is. But like you
Mm-hmm.
said, when you start monetizing stuff, it kind
Yeah.
of it becomes everybody else's thing too. And if
Mm-hmm.
everybody else don't like it, then you're not allowed to like it because it's not making you money. Your livelihood is tied to your to the thing that used to bring you joy. Like, so I
Yeah.
completely get it. Like, we
Yeah.
all do need to have things. We need to have hobbies. We need to have interests, goals, like time spent away from earning, from like
Yeah.
whatever that is, earning people's approval, money, whatever it is. And so like I want to talk about what you do on Friday
Mm-hmm.
because I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. I literally like I'll get lunch, I'll get in the bathtub, and I like I might not text, but I'll be there like, oh my god, that's so nice. But it really is cool to get around folks who are like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, let's center our joy, let's center
Yeah.
our play, let's center our rest,
Mm-hmm.
and be intentional about that thing and put it on a calendar. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear more about you, how this idea even came to be. Like, yes, everything. I would love to hear everything. Please share with
Yes.
us.
Yes. So can I be real transparent? I was like, I need this for myself.
Please, absolutely. That's the best. Yes.
Because I was Freedom Friday really came was like, I needed practice to sit my little tail down somewhere and say, hey, child, we know we need rest, but we know we don't, we default to doing more all the time. I literally was doing that. I was in the midst of like I had to have that conversation with myself and I was like, "You know what? I think this would actually be good if I did this as a live stream and invited people into it. And not only that, the fact that I'm doing it live means that um, it's just holding me accountable. I think I'm coming up on a year anniversary of doing Freedom Fridays in January. I think I've missed one time, and it was literally just by accident. It really birthed out of a necessity for me because I knew I wanted more rest and fun. I knew I wanted a more I knew I wanted to prioritize my value of truly living my life, but I also knew that the undercurrent in us that always that keeps telling us that we have to keep doing more. We'll just say hustle culture, toxic, like all of those things were already so ingrained in me that I needed a very intentional way to start changing my behavior, or else it wasn't going to ever change. And here's the thing, I needed it to change because my body was like, girl, we're literally constantly in fight or flight. My cortisol levels were high. It was affecting my blood pressure. And I was like, I'm not trying to die young because of y'all suckers. Listen, I'm trying to figure this out. And if that means that it's because I need to find more ways to make space to laugh, to um, make more ways to make time for me, then I need to figure out what those activities are. And I need to prioritize them just as much as I prioritize work. And so that's what we do on Freedom Fridays. And we started, I love when you guys come. I love when you, it's such a great, for one, we have such great conversation. And it's evolved over time. Like now, it kind of just started with co-planning at the beginning, but then I started remembering, like, celebrating our wins and recognizing just how much we have done is something that we don't, a lot, especially my clients, we don't stop and do unless somebody else is like, hey, child, like that is a win. Like, you're not acknowledging that, but let me actually pause for you and remind you that is a win. Like, I love that everybody shares their wins, but listen, I sure if I was in y'all lives, I would be like, oh wait, that's a win, that's a win, that's a win, that's a win. I can see 10 times more wins than other people because I practice at it. But like that's a huge part of Freedom Fridays. And then actually hearing different ways. The other part that we've talked about today is like the Black women before us couldn't pass on rest and fun because they didn't even know what it looked like for them. So how could they pass it on to us? So the way that we can honor that and be a part of that now is what you do for rest of fun or what I do for rest of fun or might not be the same. So when we start sharing what all of those different activities are, that's why I started creating that universal list, because now I can start doing some of the other things. Longboarding, singing at the top of, well, I do love to sing at the top of my lungs, girl. That's my favorite thing. When I get my tiny house, because it's right in the middle of some woods, and I can sing as loud as I want, and I don't have to worry about nobody hearing me, girl. That's one of my favorite things. So, and don't get me no Whitney too. I really be singing. But yes, like that was the other part of it. Was like these are things and behaviors that I know would help me, and I think it would help us too. So let's talk about it. And it's one of those things. It's not set it for and forget it. If you don't literally do it every single week, you will just get back to the default again. So that's why I do it every single week, and that's why we do the things that we do.
Oh, I love that. And yes, it's a great time. Please come. I'll share all the information in the description so y'all can check it out. Seriously, check it out. It's really life changing because I think, like you said, my scope for from like reading about rest, but also again in community with other people. This is also
Mm-hmm.
restful. Like this also counts as
Mm-hmm.
rest. This also counts for play. And it's like, oh, I never considered that. You know what I mean? Like, I love what you said about being reminded of the wins by community. That's what I wrote down. So like
Mm-hmm.
that's an important part of community because I think a lot of us like we just keep going. We don't stop to acknowledge the things that we've done. We also don't think the easy things, using air quote easy, the easy things don't
Mm-hmm.
count. It's like no, those count. We think that if it has, we have to like climb a mountain to be celebrated. And it's like no, like you need community around you that's like, girl, you signed them papers and sent that in. I'm proud of you. Let's go out. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like let's do something.
Right
Like let's do
here.
something. Yes, cheers. Okay. And I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you honestly sharing about like even your health because same like my health has been really impacted by my stress levels. And I didn't really,
Mhm.
I'm thinking like, oh, I'm too young to be affected by stress. I got maybe like 10 more years in me before I can. I'm 34 now. So like a 10 more
Mhm.
45 years old, then I'll get, serious about whatever. No, like my body was very
Mhm.
much like, girl, we've been stressed out for a long time.
Mhm.
And I think what we don't realize is when we're living in that fight or flight, like when we are talking about earlier, that being strong, that
Yeah.
like when we embody that strength, we are doing damage to our bodies.
Yeah.
Like our bodies are not meant to just survive. It's meant to thrive. It's meant, but like it can't
Mhm.
do that thriving if it's so focused on surviving, you know?
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
almost like we have to force
Mhm.
ourselves. Like that indoctrination is in here, but like literally, even when it feels wrong, I've had to tell myself it's okay to have fun. It's okay to do the thing that no one's gonna see, that no one's gonna celebrate you for, simply because it feels good. You need this. You need that space. And that is
Yeah.
that again, going back to that strength, that's what makes you strong. Good community,
Yeah.
good food, good company, doing stuff that makes
Yeah.
you happy, smiling, breathing
Yeah.
deeply. Like, like that's strength. That gives you strength. Not the thing that's
Yeah.
constantly pulling things from
Right.
you and siphoning your energy. But we've been talking for a minute, but I want to be respectful of your time.
Oh,
But
no, girl, I
I
love it. We're having a good
okay,
time.
okay, cool. That sounds good. Before we get into like the things, all the things, like tell us where we can find you, all that stuff. I do want to ask you some questions. I have a series called Beautiful People. Beautiful conversations with beautiful people, and you're a beautiful person. And I want to
Mm.
ask you some questions from this list that I've made. Oh, yay! I'm serious. I'm serious. The first question I want to ask you is, what makes your life worth living?
Mm.
The
I
things
love
or the
that
people, the
question.
places. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What makes my life worth living? I will say definitely the relationships that I have. It's simple things like I go to I've bopped around a lot, and usually when I bop around, it's simply because I'm going to go spend time with someone in person. More than I'm not a great phone talker, y'all. I'm actually really terrible at talking on the phone. I'm a better texter, but otherwise, I need to be in person because this is different. It feels in person for me, so that's the caveat. But yeah, when I get to go spend time with someone, when I get to hug you, I love a good hug. I love being able to belly laugh. I love any relationship thing like that. Are things that bring me alive. I will also say I'm probably that weird person also appreciates the hard times. And maybe that's just because I've learned it over the years, or maybe because I appreciate Inside Out again. But there's something about the sad that heightens the hue of the joy on the other side of that globe. And so, lead like communication and adventure are my two values. And um, Brene Brown talks about how do you live those values out as part of what I do in my program. And so communication, when I say I'm living out my value of communication, that means I'm leaning into a hard conversation, probably one that I might want to run from. But I know that if I choose to lean into it, the people that are the closest in my life, we've had some hard conversations, but I know that we can love each other on the other side and we make each other grow on the other side. So um, yeah, that's another part that makes me feel alive. We call it rumbling. It's not fighting, but it's this like let's. It's like you feel like you're. You know how I think it was Jacob that wrestled with God and had a limp, but he grew on the other side of it. That's not where it came from, but that was the illustration that came to my mind. But um, okay, I feel like I lost track of the question because I got excited. Tell
It's
me again.
okay. It's all good. No, what makes life worth living for you?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Life worth living. And then also, I think there's something beautiful about doing something thrilling. I think, again, like, I think that we all say we want to be comfortable. I don't think that I actually want to be, I'm not aspiring to be comfortable. I had this conversation with Jesus where I recognized that anytime Jesus was moving fast, I would ask him to slow down. And anytime he was slowed down, I would ask him to move fast. And then I realized I ain't never happy, am I, Jesus? And he said, no, you ain't. I'm glad you finally realized that. And I realized that there's something beautiful of enjoying the thrill of just being in each season that it is. And I know that's really hard. And yet it's changed complaining into okay, am I going to be on this roller coaster like this where I'm gripping it for dear life? Or am I going to throw my hands up and say we and let the magic happen? Because thrilling and fear are like two shades of the same color. Like, which side are we going to let it be? And I find life is more fun when I allow it to be this scary yet thrilling thing that can make me better on the other side rather than trying to control it and not let it scare me at all. A little fear is a good thing. A little, not being like in fight or flight. That's different. But like a little adventure. I said adventure is my second value. There's something beautiful about making space for a little adventure in everything. Adventure in my money, where it's like I'm investing in this thing and I don't know if it's going to work out, but I'm going to see what happens. Or I'm investing in this relationship and I don't know how it's going to work out, but I'm going to go into it open hearted. I'm investing in my spiritual relationship with God. I don't know how it's going to work out. Like, I think there's something beautiful about having that open handed way of looking at things, that adventure, because then magical things happen. I've had some magical things that you're like, like only Jesus. Like, there's no other way that this could happen a way that it happens other than Jesus. And so I think I answered the question.
You did. You did. You answered, and those were beautiful answers. And I resonate with a lot of what you said, especially about the calling phone. Where I am is where I am, and I'm very present. I'm a very present person,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so the phone is a way for me to not be present. I'm trying to be
Yeah.
present, like, but when I'm in conversation with, I'm here. I'm nowhere else. I don't even know where my phone is right now. I have no idea. Oh, there it is. I have no idea. You know what I mean? But like, much like you, like, I'm here, and
Mhm.
I do think that similar to what you're saying about, like, so Spirit had to get me together and was basically like, you say you want to go on this adventure with me, but then you want to know everything that's going to happen. It's like, stop that. Like, which one is it? Do you want the adventure, or like? And it's like, I do, but I'm scared. And like you said, like, it's okay to be scared. Like,
Mhm.
every time you do something new, there is going to be some fear there, because it's not something you've done before. But it doesn't mean the world
Mhm.
is ending. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and like you said, a little bit of fear, not like I'm living at the edge of my margin all the time. That's not healthy.
I,
But yes, I love those
yes.
answers. I love
Okay,
that.
so then I have to tell you one of the
Please.
things. I got this vision where I'm at the path. I'm on a path and I'm walking with Jesus and we're talking da 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 da, and he's like, "Okay, wait, you see that thing over there?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I see it." He's like, "We're gonna do that next." And what I used to do before was I would get so excited and I would like and I start running to that thing as soon as he points it out, and he'd be behind me, be like, "Yeah," and I'd be like, "Oh," because I've already jumped off the cliff and start doing
Not,
all
I
this
didn't say
stuff.
go yet. Not yet. We didn't jump in the gun.
You're right. And that's what I would do. I would get so excited, and so now what I'm learning is that when he's like, "Hey, here's that thing." He's pointed it out, and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. It's exciting." Now I've learned to kind of write it down and be like, "Okay, that's cool." And now, as we're on that journey, and all of these other thrilling things are happening, because here's the thing. That journey, if the thing is over here, but the path is going in the opposite direction and it's going up and down and around mountains and all of those other things, I'm like, "But Jesus, how is this going to get us over there?" I've learned to stop questioning him because I know he'd be like, "Girl, if you don't let me lead you, could you let me? Can I be the driver right now?"
Can I do my job?
Right,
Okay.
right. And so I'll be like, so I learned to be like, okay, I'm here for the ride, and he was kind enough to point it out to me. But like you said, I used to want to know why everything was happening in the meantime. And he's like, "But listen, I showed you where we're going, and you don't even know how magical it's going to be by the time we get there. Because I don't, we're gonna pick up things on the path to get there. Could you trust?" Could you trust that I showed that even though this is going in all the other different directions that I told you we were going there? Can you not trust that I say that I'm gonna do what I said? And I'd be like, "Oh, I mean, well, when you put it that way, Jesus, how else am I supposed to listen? Like, obviously. Okay. Thanks, Jesus. You
What
know?
other option? Right, exactly. Not that you don't have other options, but you do. But like, no, this is the option that I
Mhm.
want to take. And so it's like,
Right.
okay, and really, like, it does kind of work on your presence. Like, we're
Hmm.
here right now, and literally, like, when you really think about that, and I'm not talking about people who are obviously like going through hard times. Like, don't gaslight yourself. If you're not okay, you're not okay. But a lot of times that I'm
Hmm.
freaking out, I'm okay. Everything is okay right now. Like, we're in the future, right? Like, everything is fine right now, unless it isn't fine. But you, most of the
Right.
time, it is fine. And so, like, all these things, a lot of the suffering that I do is really sometimes me out of my own timeline, or like me trying to force
Hmm.
something to happen that is not time to happen yet, or like me worried about something that ain't happened yet. Like,
Hmm.
just be here. Everything is okay here, and everything that you need is right here. Like, it's
Hmm.
here. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, it's not out there. It's like, it's maybe God don't want you to do nothing today. Maybe you just need to sit
Hmm.
in quiet.
Hmm.
Enjoy it. Take a bath. Watch a
Deep
movie.
breath. Right.
Okay? Like, luxuriate. Make it wonderful. It doesn't have to be suffering. Oh,
Hmm.
I'm waiting. It's like, no, like, you're given an opportunity to enjoy your life right now. You're being
Yeah.
distracted by what you can't see. Like, but all the joy and all the things are right here. But yes,
Mhm.
everything you said, I'm like, we're here. We are here. One more question before we start to wrap up. I do want to ask you, what in your life, I have like a list of questions and I feel like you've answered some of these, but what in your life do you want more than money?
Mm, gosh. Okay, so let me ask for a little bit of clarification.
Sure.
More than money, that's not stuff, or all
It
any context.
I usually do like open however you want to interpret it, but
Mm,
like but
okay.
yeah, however you want to interpret it.
Okay. And I'm gonna answer it two different ways. At this point, what I want more than anything is my tiny home, and that is because I am still very much in a nomadic lifestyle, and I love being a nomad. And I also want a place that's mine, a place that I can turn on the heat to the temperature that I want without worrying about it affecting somebody else, or that I can sing at the top of my lungs without worrying about waking nobody else up. And here's the thing, I love being with people. I am an introverted. I'm probably more ambiverted than anything else, but I love being with people, but I also love to have my own space. And I don't think I've had my own space. It's 2024. I don't think I've had my own space in going on 12 years now. So I'm in this space where I would love um I would love the space to be a little uh rambunctious. Is that it maybe? Like just a little crazy without everybody seeing. That makes sense.
That makes perfect
So
sense. Yes.
because part of it is the tiny house is the thing, but it's more the feeling and the space that it creates. And so it's that mess of being able to, I've lived the family that I was telling you about. I live with them and I love them, but they are a lot. Ooh, you know how you love somebody a whole bunch, but you're like, listen, can you go over there for a little while? Because I can't take you no more. I need a break from you. Please go away. So I want to be in the front yard so that I can have my own little place to retire to, and then go back and hang out with y'all. But then I got to go. I got to go rest up to be with y'all because y'all got. I thought I got energy, but y'all really got energy. So I need. Honestly, I think that is my most honest and transparent answer. And I think I've heard so many people romanticize the life that I live, and I do love what I do. I mean, I have probably taken some form of trip twice a month, every single month of this year. And that can also be tiring. And some of them were like, my mom had like a little weird episode and I had to go home and things like that. So it's just like this. I'm looking forward to that. And I think the other thing that I would want is I do want to find somebody that could be in that space with me and understand. I want you here but I want you to introvert with me. I want a partner. You know what I mean? Like, and I got quirky things, but I receive what you said. That person, that when it's truly that person, they'll understand that. So it's all about that space of like that quirky, rambunctious. Because it's almost like you want to be able to walk around bare, like that nakedness that I don't have that space to be completely naked yet.
That completely that completely checks out. I completely understand what you're saying. Like, I don't know if your question, like, yeah, no, like there is a softening that you can do in your own space that you can't necessarily
Hmm.
do. Even if you are a guest at somebody's house, it's still like, oh, this is still your house, right? And I still want to respect your rules, and I still got to be engaging with you. When really, I just want to go in my bed and scroll and like maybe take a nap and not do anything at all. And I also understand the introverting together. I appreciate the friends that I have. I appreciate the fact that I live with someone who basically we can be doing two different things, not talking to each other, and it's still like an act of love, right? It's still like
Hmm.
I don't want to talk, but like, you know what I mean? Like, we could just be, we could
Yes.
just be together. So yes,
I don't want to talk, but I don't want you to leave either.
yes, exactly, exactly, exactly. And he
Yes.
gets it, and I appreciate it because I
Hmm.
don't always have that, like you said, that energy to, because it can feel like entertaining.
Hmm.
I don't want to have to entertain
Yeah.
or perform, for
Yeah.
lack of better words, perform in my own space. So I completely understand what you're saying. I do.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we are starting to wrap up, this conversation has been great, by the way. Thank you so much for spending time with me and sharing so much of yourself and your story and like your passion. I really appreciate your enthusiasm and your passion. But
Thank you.
of course, I do want you to please share with us everything about your business,
Mhm.
everything that you want to share about your business and about just like what's next for you, where people can find you, all the things. And again, I will put all the things in the description below, y'all. So please check it out. Please check out her channel. It's amazing. It's great. The topics that you cover, seriously, the topics you cover are wonderful. They're honest. And I really,
Mhm.
really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Because I feel like, and it's like, again, no slight to nobody else, but like there's a lot of performing that a lot of people do
Mhm.
online, and you're very much like, no, like I'm showing up. This is what I'm passionate about. I care about this, and even sharing like some background of your own life and your own story. That's brave, and I commend you for that, and I celebrate you. So please tell everybody all the things.
First, thank you for that. And I have to say, thank you for being an inspiration. I think that, like you said, there's not a lot of us. And I don't, it's funny, a year and a half ago when I started doing YouTube, I didn't, somebody had told me that you could get community on YouTube, but I didn't realize how amazing it could be until I started finding like you and Dee and like some of these other amazing Black women that are just so real. And I think I, I applaud you because when you make space to be real, that opens the space for me to be real, which opens the space for someone else to be real and to speak directly to us. I remember when I first started my business, it wasn't focused on Black women because I felt like I had to, we feel like we got to make space for everybody else. And then I was like, F that. I just want to talk to us. But it took seeing some of us, especially on YouTube, and seeing that we were making space specifically for us. And you are one of the main creators who has. I told you, I already listened to your music and all this stuff on my own. Like I'm too. It's like I'm a little fly on the wall to all of your stuff, even if I'm not always in the chat. Like I'm always listening to it. You talked about your story with Christianity as well, which is why I knew I had space to talk about that here. So, okay, I'm rambling about it because I'm fangirling for a second. I think I have to make space for that, right?
I appreciate it. I do. I'm learning how to be better with taking compliments, but like I'm here for all of it. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, good, good. Okay. So then what I do in my business, it's really all about some of the things that I've been talking about. So it's about really figuring out if you did not have to do this. And I think that this is whether it's the corporate America, whether it's you're struggling in your business, whatever this is, that feels like it's sucking the life out of you right now. If you didn't have to do this anymore, what would you do? If you don't have an answer to that, then we should talk. because everything that I do in all of my programs is about helping you figure that out. It's helping you take a step back and reconnect to who you are. And I do that very intentionally. God took me through some really amazing steps that I pass on and help other people do. And then it's about dreaming. Now that you are reconnected to yourself, your dreams are going to change. Your dreams are going to evolve because everything that you thought you should do. Now you're like, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to do that anymore. I get to do something else. I get to decide what I want. So now you're dreaming. And now that you're dreaming, but here's the thing, you might not have ever seen anybody do those dreams. And so it feels so far. It feels so distant. How could you actually make that real? I help you bring that down out of this dream ether down into what do you do every single day to make that happen. And then we learn how to keep going when the dream takes a long time. You can see I've had plenty of practice with this. I'm still practicing it right now. And how do you hold on and continue to hold on while you're making those dreams happen? And so that's what I do inside of my program. It's called Meant for More. But I also do that in Freedom Fridays. So Freedom Fridays is really grounded in that last step because I think you can start with the last step and then jump to the first step and then keep moving back to the last step that way. So I love to do that in Freedom Fridays. And that's really about taking small steps every day to make space in your life to start living the lifestyle you want right now. It doesn't have to be this huge transformation to start feeling the freedom that you want right now. So, Freedom Fridays is also another option. And then I have two classes coming up in January, the More Than a Vision Board Party and the Budgeting and Self Care. So I think one of the things that makes us feel really connected to who we are is when we know where we want to take our life and seeing that our money is not the goal, but it's also the funding that helps us get there. And how we can switch our behaviors to make the vision the number one and the money the number two, because the money is just helping us do that. And so it's you can do one or the other with the classes. So More Than a Vision Board Party, yes, we all have heard about doing a vision board, but a lot of us never actually make our vision board happen. So how do we like actually close that gap? That's what we'll do in the More Than a Vision Board Party. And then the budgeting and self-care is now that we know what we're trying to do this year, how do we actually fix our money, like organize our money to empower that? And I think I mentioned it earlier. I paid off all my debt. I had $69,605 in debt. I paid it off in 2.5 years. And then I saved up $14,000 to go be a missionary across the world. So I've I've done some amazing things with money, and so I have some really great resources around budgeting that will help you build and live your dreams as well. So those are the things that I have coming up, and I will share all the links. If you're looking for the best place to see all of it, go to bio.yourdreamstrategist.com. That's got everything that's live is right there because that's my link in bio my Instagram. But yeah, everything else. I start with Freedom Fridays. Start with the refreshment of celebrating your wins, being apart with other women who are doing the same, and making space for rest and fun in your life every single week, and then we'll level you up as you keep going.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. And again, yes, I'm vouching for Freedom Fridays. I'm trying. Listen, I'm trying to tell y'all. It is really. It sounds simple, but that's the thing. It's simple and it's life changing because we
Mhm.
bypass it. Like, no, that doesn't count. It's not whatever. And it feels good because if you show up, you get a sticker. Okay. So
Yeah, one of my favorite parts.
period. Me too. Listen, I want my sticker. Right. Asking nicely from the chat. I really can I. I did things this week, but it does feel good. Like that
Yeah.
same that recognition that you feel like, yes, look at this. Look at you can
Mhm.
actually see a visible like example of you actually trying to live your life and you trying to
Mhm.
seek your joy and your peace and your rest above all things. I
Yeah.
love that. And I just want to thank you for the
Yeah.
work that you're doing. I think you're phenomenal. I think you're wonderful. And I have one more question I do want to ask you. Um,
Mhm.
Instead of being a strong black woman,
Hmm.
who would you like to be in place of
Yeah.
strong? Mm-hmm.
Ah, I love that question. I'm calling it soft. I remember when I first started seeing I wanted something different, I would say that I wanted more. And I didn't know what more meant. It took me some time to get language around describing what more meant. And now, what I realize I want more to look like is what, in essence, what people call soft. I want, this is crazy to say, I realized that the last time I really felt like somebody took care of me, I was 4 years old. Gosh, that's intense, right? I want somebody who's going to take care of me. I want someone who um they don't have to read my mind and think of things before I need them, but I want someone who's going to ask me, what do you need? I want someone I love when on Freedom Fridays, it is something so simple and I'm leading it, and yet someone will be like, "But how are you today?" And I'm like, "Oh, my little heart melts." It's these little things. It literally is the little things, and I think it is those things of being softness because we weren't afforded those. We were told that those were luxuries. We were told that being soft, that asking for help, that being able to cry. I love when I have the space to cry, whether it's out of joy, whether it's out of sadness. Please do not tell me to stop crying. Please don't do that to me. Allow me to, I've had to fight to honor my emotions. Allow me to honor them. So those, I mean, I guess I gave more of a description, but to me, that's what the softness is. And I know sometimes people will say, well, they equate soft life to being never working again. I honestly don't know. I enjoy work to an extent because I actually do love the things that I love to do. So I don't actually want to stop working, but I would love to be, I think, for one, that it's not the epitome of my worth. It never should be that. That's number one. And number two, I also would love for it to be where my work is not necessarily tied to my well-being. Um, so when I'm saying I want to quit being a strong Black woman, my contrast to that is I want a soft life, or maybe it's your rest era, or I want it to be more than an era, though. I want this to be a lifestyle. So maybe it's your work less, live more lifestyle. That's a mouthful, but all of those are the way that I like to describe the life that I'm building. And there's something beautiful about building, at least in my mind. You can build one room and then build the next room and then build the next room, and that doesn't mean that you, because the project's not done, that you haven't already made progress. I started this journey of like moving into my soft life, man, a long time ago, but I'm going to say like officially in like 2019. And I will never forget the first time somebody else pointed it out to me. They were like, "Man, you live an amazing life." And I was like, "You're right." Kind of have gone over my head. And I was like, "Huh, how the heck did I get here?" Thankfully, Jesus figured some things. It showed me some things because he's just kind and sweet like that. But oh, that's another part of it. Making sure I always stay very connected to that as my main relationship, because that has been my lifesaver in so many different ways. But yeah, like understanding that my soft life is not about arriving. It's every step that I take to allow me to be the fullest expression of myself. And work is a part of that, but also fun and joy and deep belly laughs and connecting with beautiful spirits and introverting together, and like all of those things are a part of it. So yeah.
I love that so much. You could feel that when you're describing that. Like obviously the English language is limited and it only gives us a few a few words to express. But I feel that. I feel what you mean.
Mhm.
Especially like being cared for, like someone being concerned for you. Like that
Mhm.
isn't a feeling. I feel like I've been concerned for other people, but it hasn't been
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
same way. So I feel that there's like that
Yeah.
part missing, you know?
Yeah.
So yes. Any do you have any I'm not gonna say last because I want to have you back, but if you want to come back, but
Yes.
but are there any parting words that you would like to share with someone, with a Black woman who might be in her strength
Mm.
in the ways that aren't beneficial to her? What are some last encouraging words that you would have for her?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great. I love that question. Okay, so here's what I would say. I would say for the longest time, I spent a lot of energy trying to run from the things that I didn't want, but I didn't know what I wanted to replace the things that I didn't want with. So if you talk to the universe or God about all the things you don't want all the time, all you're doing is focusing your thing, your life, your mindset on the things you don't want. Take a pause, write those things down, and start filling in. What does it look like the opposite of that? That was how that practically, like in the most practical sense, that's how I started figuring out what I do want because I wrote down the things that I don't want, and I had to sit and gosh, and let me tell you, it took time to figure it out. But I would sit with each one and say, if I don't want to be tied to this job, then what is the opposite of that? Okay, if I don't want that thing either, then what's another manifestation of that? And I had to ask myself for what is the opposite manifestation of that. And when you start doing that, you start to figure out some trends, some themes of what you feel like is missing in your life, and then follow those. Um, I haven't got to see Wicked yet, but I feel like, maybe that's like laying a couple bricks on that yellow brick road, you know? So that's what I leave you with today.
I love that. That's the perfect way to end. Also, Wicked was really good. I recommend it. But
I
yes,
can't wait. I'm going on
yes.
Friday. I'm going
Okay,
on Friday. I cannot wait.
good. Okay, good, good. It was excellent. Oh, okay. A lot of Black girls resonate with that movie. I'm trying to tell you. Yes, it's
Yes.
really good. And I haven't even seen the play, but the movie itself was phenomenal so far. Well, anyway, but I'm not giving away nothing. But yes, but thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, for your patience. Thank you so much for your vulnerability, your kindness, and yes, your generosity. Because you don't have to show up, but you also don't have to give as much as you gave. And so I really appreciate that. And I'm sure people watching appreciate you as well. Again, y'all, please follow Rashidat, please.
Mhm.
I'm trying to tell you, game changer. If you're looking for, like, it's really cool, like, to know, oh yeah, I need to rest. If you need help, show up. Show up.
Mhm.
And it's not the environment is not hustle grind. It's not whatever.
Mhm.
It's very lax. It's very
Mhm.
chill. It's very the opposite of what we kind of almost know to be like productive sessions. Like, it's, even though it is productive, it's more healing than it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Right.
not,
Right.
but yes, yes.
We
So
need a
thank
word for
you.
that. Because
Yes,
it's
I
not
know, right? Like, what is that?
right,
But
because
it's
it's not anti-productivity. It's not that,
right.
but it's also not the same. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But
come and
yeah.
get your life, okay? Come and
Right.
get your life. Like,
Yes. Come and
come and
get
get it
your
back.
life.
Yes. 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 Aw.
Yes.
I've
And
loved
thank
this
you for
so
creating
much.
this space. Thank you. I
Of
really,
course.
you made space for me to share all the things. I appreciate that.
Yes, of course. I'm appreciative. I love it. I love it. But yes, we're gonna close out now. But thank you all so much for watching. Please like, share. Please share with a Black woman you know need to hear this, or listen back if it's you. I'm gonna be listening back to
Mhm.
it as well.
Me too.
Yes, yes. And I hope that you all are having a wonderful day wherever you are. If you're not, I hope that your day gets better. Much love to you. Again, love each other and love yourself. Okay, and I'll talk to you all in the next one. All right, bye.